media, the floor is now open for Q&A. We have mics in the audience if you'd like to ask them a question. Thank you.
So, can me being part of Filmfare have the prerogative to ask you the first question? Uh, how fashion savvy, I mean, do you think the movies are getting, and is it an important part of the evolution of the movies?
Well, I think today's movies, Chitisha, more than fashion savvy, are getting a bit more real and very relevant of today's changing time. And I think the new fashion in movies is to be real. The small town girl has become the heroine. She's no more the glamour zone girl who shops in New York. The small town boy who has dreams of making it big and does finally is your new hero. So I think in movies and costume design, it's all about what people wear, and I think that a certain sense of style has come in today's audience. I mean, they know what they want to wear, what they want to look like, what they want to see. So I think that's what the biggest change in movies in the last 3 to 4 years has been. And I think somewhere that started with Jab We Met, with Karina's look of that salwar and T-shirt with a jacket. So that whole Western Indian, the Indian cool kind of feel.
Karan, ironically, while you gave fashion savvy to the movies, I mean, you came under constant criticism that you tend to cosmetize the movies and make it a little more glamorized than they should be, your movies. So, how would you react to something like that?
I think that used to be, a perception. I fought that perception for, I think, over a decade. But I wasn't apologetic about it. That was the path that I chose. I loved the fact that, cinema was a large-scale medium, and that opulence is something that I liked. Fashion is something I enjoyed. And being slightly over the top or far from the real zone was something that I believed in, and I wanted to pull it off with my own personal conviction. So, today, of course, one has to adapt to the syntax of the times. But at that point, I was like this boy who walked into the movie business with big dreamy eyes and grown up on the works of Yash Chopra, the opulence of Raj Kapoor, the grandeur of their films and their vision. And I was very happy to emulate that vision and create my own zone along with I would say, their reverential memory. And that's what I think I did. And as I said, I'm very proud of the work I did even in that zone. And I continue to kind of feel that it's the important thing is to adapt to the time. So today, of course, maybe a Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum would not be able to be pulled off with that kind of conviction because the times have changed. And had I to do the same thing, I think there would be a large part of today's film cinegoer generation that wouldn't be able to identify. But those are the same people that still look back at that film on satellite when it does come and enjoys it for its vintage value, I think.
This question is directed to both of you. When you work together on a film, is there like a template that you follow, say 3 things that you have to have or must do's, or we will absolutely, it's forbidden? Is there something that you'll work in tandem? How do you all work? Because you've collaborated on so many iconic films.
Actually, the thing is, honestly, when I actually met Karan through his dad and Sri Devi, because I was designing for a film called Gumra, which his father was producing, and that's when I met Karan. I think that when Kuch Kuch Hota was, Kuch Kuch Hota Hai started, it was like our film. Like all of us, whether it was Shahrukh or Kajol, that it never even occurred to me that, Karan's now becoming the director. There was such happiness among all of us. And I think till date, I mean, I don't, I think for me, Karan's film is like my film, it's like my production, and it never really, and I think like how I would, if I was producing that film, I would make sure that I'm on time and that everything is done correctly. And likewise, when it's Karan's film, I just make sure that everything is correct. So it's never that, and of course, I think for any relationship which is personal and to last out professionally, it's really important that at your work, you don't get your personal equations. So it's not that when Karan's taking a shot, I'm going to just, backslap him and say, hey, you know what, that happened last night. Because he's doing something really important at that time. So you've got to respect that. And I think, I don't know, I've never really understood why people say good friends can't work together. And I think Karan and me are an example. It's almost 20 years. And I mean, Karan's film starting now. We're all going to be in London for a long time. I'm actually looking forward to it. And yeah, so it's like my film starting. So I don't think of any kind of pressure.
No, I completely endorse what he said. I think when Manish does the clothes on my film, like I'm completely stress-free. I think he and I have a complete understanding. You know, I think I completely respect his talent, his vision, and his extreme amount of hard work that he puts into even one single costume. Manish will give it a deep amount of thought, and I respect the fact that he's still so passionate after being in the business for nearly 25 years. He's still so passionate about every garment that he puts out there, and to me, that really strikes a chord on an emotional level. And working with him is like working with family. I mean, like Manish and I have a complete understanding. Even when we kind of sit and jam on something, I mean, I trust him completely because he's more than being a fashion friendly working entity. He's also passionate about Hindi cinema, and I think it's the synergy of the two that really makes him the man he is.
Members
Karan
of the
sir,
media?
Karan sir here. Karan
Yeah.
and Manish Malhotra, both, I have a question for you that this year you have been awarded with this, Manish Malhotra, you have been awarded with the most glamorous designer and you have been awarded with the most stylish director, glamorous director. So what was your feeling and what do you think about this collaboration where fashion has been appreciated at a much more higher level?
Well, it's always important to platform fashion. It's a multi-billion-dollar business worldwide. And I think that, there's a certain perception sometimes, which is changing now completely, that fashion is frivolous. No, it's actually, as I said, a multi-billion-dollar business in the world, and it's growing phenomenally today, even in our country. Manish is the leading mainstream designer of the country, and the world, and he's to the point that when I produced a film called Humpty Sharma Ki Dulhania, there was a dialogue where we needed a leading designer name where she says, "Lehenga penugi to sirf Manish Malhotra ki penugi, varna nahi karungi shadi." He was the brand that the director wrote without any interference from me. And when I read that dialogue, I realized his reach is that large that if you go to even a small town or you go to a city that is not in the forefront of things, they will tell you that if you mention fashion designer, the recall is Manish Malhotra. So fashion is definitely on the map today, and proudly so. As far as the award, I think it's great that Filmfare has started this platform. Winning the most glamorous filmmaker is, of course, it's both, I would say, a very extremely gratifying to know that someone thinks you're glamorous, partially embarrassing as well, because glamorous can be I think such a subjective term in so many levels. But definitely if somebody else had won it and not me, I would have been very upset. So winning is very critical, and winning any award for me is critical, be it glamour, be it director. I don't like to lose. If I'm nominated with 5 other names, I'd like to win.
Manish, please say your thoughts also.
Well, I think when a professional gets an award like this, it's of course about first their work, I would think. Their work has to be what you are being awarded for. So I think my work has been glamorous. I think in my mind, glamour, style, fashion, it's all very related. And, you don't necessarily have to be fashionable, but you could be very stylish. And the way you carry even a simple cotton shirt could be really glamorous. So that's what I think. So and I think that what's great here is that Filmfare, being a film magazine in the last few years, has really, in fact, earlier I used to make fun of Jitesh. I said, oh, so much of fashion. But today, when I saw this in the flight while coming from Dubai, and I've been noticing that so many people are who love movies, look at Filmfare for what fashion and style can be. So I think them to take that step further and expand their spectrum, I think it's great. And somewhere we all need to do that. And I think that's really brilliant. And I felt very good getting the award. You always feel good getting the awards, and the next day you move on and you start working. But of course, this was special because it was the first. So I'm very happy to win the first Glamour and Style Awards by Filmfare.
Okay, Karan sir, please allow me to ask here. Karan sir, please allow me to ask that what's your current status of the most awaited project, 2 of your projects, Ram Lakhan and Shuddhi, please?
Uh, They're both awaited by us also. We are also awaiting it. Shruti should we definitely go on the floors very soon. The pre-production on that film is a tumultuous task because it's a very widespread film with a large scale, so it needs a lot of time. And Karan Malhotra, the director of the film, is releasing Brothers in August, so he'll get into it right after that. Ram Lakhan should start early 2016. Rohit Shetty is all set. As soon as he finishes his already announced film Dilwale, we will in the next 2 months announce the cast. And just to go on record and say the film has not been cast, because every morning I open some newspaper or read some online news that suggests a new cast for Ram Lakhan. Eventually I think I will be playing Ram and Rohit will be playing Lakhan, because that's the way it's going. Every day there's a new information about that film. So I always say till we go on record, till Rohit and I don't go on record, that film hasn't been cast. But it's all set to start 2016, early 2016.
But Karan, I look that they haven't even been casted, but they are the most written about films, I think, in the last 1 year.
Yeah, well.
And the most awaited.
Yeah. Well, there's only that much I think we can pull it off till we better get on the floors and release it finally.
All right, Karan, right here.
Yeah.
Straight. Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Talking about style and glamour, obviously your look in Bombay Velvet has been, everybody has been talking about it. It's extremely smart. So who really styled you, and tell us more about it? What really went into putting it on?
I had nothing to do with the styling of that film. I had nothing to do with that film at all, actually. I just reported as an actor and I forgot that I was a filmmaker or had any perception or any point of view. It was styled by Niharika. And it was conceptualized by Anurag in tandem with Niharika. They wanted me to look very different for myself, and it's also a film based in the 60s, so it had to have a certain retro element in its styling. But the character is partially flamboyant, so there is certain usage of color and within which I don't normally wear. I wear a lot of black, and I've worn all kinds of colors, and I just kept my mouth shut because I felt as an actor I can't have a perspective. I have to follow the vision of the filmmaker because that's what I want out of acting myself. So if I start throwing my own tantrum on the side, it won't go. And Anurag is something you can't throw a tantrum with because he has a very clear vision. I'm really nervous about it because it's my first foray into film acting, and I'm just really stressed out about how it's going to be accepted when it's out.
All right, okay, thank you.
Okay, I have to butt here and say Karan plays this lean mean machine, so that's your scoop. And those who have sneak peeked it say they couldn't believe that Karan could have played mean with so much aplomb. So he's really mean.
I'm not mean. Like when somebody asks me like, oh, you're playing a villain, and I have to like correct them and say I'm not like Mogambo or anything like that. Like, it's not that kind of villain. It's a little bit of it's a grey character which ventures into the black once in a while. But that's Anurag's film, so everybody's doing the same actually in this film.
Right. Karan, since you are a filmmaker, there's a question I have to ask you. Recently, the CBFC, another film called Unfreedom, has been banned by the CBFC, saying it's got too much of homosexual content and it can't really, go on the big screen. So, as a filmmaker, do you think banning is an option, or is it justified?
I don't think banning anything is something that I endorse. I also feel we've been in very detailed and very productive talks with the authorities to be on censorship. I do believe very strongly there should be certification, not censorship. And it's something that I actually have been trying to suggest for a while. Just like the British Film Board of certification has like a 12, a PG, a 15 and 18. We all hope that perhaps we can, and the right people are handling the situation, so I wouldn't want to comment while the process is still on. I just have to say that the industry, the fraternity have come together to kind of resolve the crisis that seems to surround this particular issue, and I hope very soon that we will have an amicable solution to it all.
Hi, Karan. Hi.
Hi.
I just want to know, in today's time, do you think which hero or heroine is perfect in fashion or style in industry?
Manish should actually answer that because
No, I would like to answer take the answer from both.
who I think is the most stylish. I definitely think that Sonam is a game changer when it comes to red carpet fashion. I do believe that she should be given that credit completely because I think she revolutionized the concept of red carpet fashion, and she started the ball rolling, and everyone rolled along. So I definitely think she pioneered that. And also there was a sudden burst of stylists, and I know she housed a few of them. And Ria, her sister, is definitely a large part of that process as well. So she should be given due credit for it as well. I would say Sonam is definitely one of the most fashionable women in the business. When it comes to fashion iconic in general, I don't think there's anyone better than Mr. Bachchan. I think you can give him anything to wear, and he carries it off with the aplomb that I don't think any other individual has. Manish has styled him on two of the films that I've directed with him, and he would endorse that, I'm sure, that you, from giving him the bright red coat to a fur coat to anything overtly opulent to something completely simple and basic, he can pull off almost anything and pull it off with the fashion of a legend.
Thank you.
But I think generally what happens is that when you see people wearing very fashionable clothes and clothes that are out there, you kind of always feel, okay, that's that's a very fashionable person. But I think fashion is also it has to be you and not borrowed. And I think especially in a superstar like Mr. Bachchan, who has with time changed and carried those clothes and felt good in them and looked good. When it comes to Sonam, she again feels good in what she wears. I mean, if somebody else had to, do what she does, probably not carry it that well, and so it wouldn't, look that good. So I think that I think it's very, very important. I mean, when I see Ranveer Singh and he wears those really quirky suits, and I always wonder, I always keep looking at him and thinking that which other actor can carry that? Yeah. But I think it's his personality that helps him carry.
And your friend Kangana, I mean,
yeah, and Kangana again is, I think, I actually credit a lot to Kangana because, I mean, coming from a small town and learning everything here and evolving and understanding fashion and carrying it off so well, I think is I don't know why Kangana is saying this, but yes.
No, I'm just saying that because I do believe Kangana has the quirkiest and the most individualistic sense of fashion. Yeah. I think she has her own sense, and I think she is not somebody who follows the norm. She sets them.
Thank you.
Fantastic. So, members of the media, before we leave, the last thoughts before we leave, at least the thoughts that I have are, a Karan Johar film and a Manish Malhotra design will never be out of style. Thank you so much for being with us. It was a fabulous evening.